Everything matters. How we wake up, how we dress, how we eat, how we meet, how we train, how we practice, how we rehab, how we recover, how we treat one another, how we treat everyone.
Second half, that's our style. That's what we represent. Showing that fight, showing your urgency, showing the effort and the technique and the violence that we stand for, guys.
Welcome to Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh. Here's your host, Eric Allen.
Welcome to Jets Game Day. Eric Allen here inside the studio. We are thankful for another football Sunday. It is the Jets and the Chicago Bears this afternoon at MetLife Stadium. Coming up, we're going to hear from Jets head coach Robert Saleh, Cynthia Freeland, and we'll also have the morning tea with Caroline Hendershot, Ethan Greenberg. But we start with Bart Scott and Brian Baldinger. Bart, what do the New York Jets have to be thankful for?
Well, they have a lot to be thankful for, but if I had to narrow it down, I'll say I'll be thankful for this Jets secondary, who last year gave up a lot of big plays. Now they have two lockdown corners, and finally the back end is tied to the front end. It allows them to do a lot of things. It allows them to be able to be multiple in their coverage. They have lockdown guys that are playing very, very well. And also they come to the party in the run game. So I think this dynamic duo is a young dynamic duo that reminds me a lot of some of the great backfields that I've been a part of, whether you want to talk about my experience with the Ravens with McAllister or Samari Rolle, or you want to talk about Revis and Cromartie. When you have guys on the outside that are not afraid to dare to be great, you should be thankful for that, because that sets the tone for the rest of the defensive side of the ball. It also steals an iron, sharpens iron, and it prepares these Jets receivers to get prepared to play against the best.
Yeah, don't overlook the fact that Michael Carter II and those safeties back there, LaMarcus Joyner and Jordan Whitehead, are playing well in addition to those outstanding quarterbacks on the outside. Baldy, where are you going?
Look, I'm just going to take it a step further than what Bart just said. I mean, the secondary's been great, but the defense has been great. They've got a real defense here. The defensive line is 8 deep. It's a pack of hungry wolves. They set the tone. I mean, whether it's penetration, whether it's sacks, Quinnen is the leader up front. But it doesn't matter whether it's Bryce Huff right now or Carl Lawson. Pick a name. And then the guys at that next layer. C.J. Mosley is the quarterback of the defense. He makes sure everybody gets lined up. He's got instant recognition. And whether Quincy is in there or Quan is next to him, this is a complete defense. And the great thing about defense, especially this time of the year, when the weather gets nasty in the Northeast, is defense travels. And this defense is going to travel. So I think that's a thing that all Jet fans and Jet players should be very thankful for and how they're building this.
Baldy, how about the rotation on the outside with these defensive ends? You got the young guys like Michael Clemens and Jermaine Johnson, and the old guys like a Vinnie Curry. The Jets has come at you in waves up front.
Well, the great thing about that, EA, is when you have the rookies out there, Clement and Jermaine Johnson, like there doesn't seem to be a drop-off. And so, you know, when you can have those hockey changes where, okay, second team defensive line is out there, like they got to hold serve. And when I watch them play, they play with the same effort. They turn and chase. I mean, the defensive line's job is always the screen game. Turn and run. Run and get to the ball. Good things happen when you get to the ball. And so it's more than just the stars and the names that, you know, that we all know, like Quinnen and Lawson. I think the young guys are really coming on. They know their place. And Vinny, Vinny's just a Jersey boy. Like he only knows one thing. He just knows how to play hard. That's it. And give it everything he's got when he's out there. So you need guys like that. You need veterans that just know how to play the game. Almost like what Bart just said, like there's a sense of calm when veterans are out there. You know, rookies, they don't know what they don't know. So they're just all geeked up, which is good. But sometimes you just need a veteran out there to go, we'll make this stop on third down. We'll get off the field right now.
Quinnen Williams is having a great season there in the middle. And Carl Lawson coming back from an Achilles. He's having a career year. For more on the Jets defense, here's Cynthia Freeland.
It's time for Maximum Altitude with Cynthia Freeland, presented by NFL All Day.
With over half of the 2022 season in the books, there's enough data to solidify this Jets defense as elite. A few of my favorite stats to back this up are New York's 30.7 pressure percentage, which ranks 6th in the NFL, 11 interceptions, and 77.2 passer rating allowed, which ranks 3rd best, along with only 12 rushing yards over expected allowed on the season, which is tied for 12th fewest. Oh, and one more, on rushes inside the tackles, the Jets have allowed 24 rushing yards under expected, which is 6th best. There are a lot of players to highlight on this squad, but one player who seems to be flying below the radar is second-year corner Michael Carter II, who has 2 picks and 6 passes defense, along with an 81.6 run defense grade, good for 11th best in the NFL per PFF. All of this adds up to a 78.3 overall grade, which ranks 13th in the entire league at the position. We all know defensive fronts and backfields work together, and on this team, that extends to not only being able to blanket receivers and generate top-end pressure, only blitzing at the second lowest rate in the league, but also having a corner like Carter that's so effective against the run adds another problematic element for offenses to have to overcome. This week against the Bears, who have allowed Justin Fields to be pressured on 37.2% of dropbacks, the highest rate in the league, it's almost a certainty that we'll see this dual threat quarterback use his legs. The Bears have averaged the highest rushing yards per game in the league. Justin Fields specifically has only had fewer than 82 rushing yards once in the Bears' past 6 games, which means Carter's impact in limiting the run game figures to be an important factor in this one.
Stay tuned. Eric sits down with head coach Robert Saleh after this. Now time for Inside the Walls, presented by Microsoft Surface.
After the game Sunday, you said everything was on the table. What were the hours like you coming home after that Patriots game?
Just a lot of film study, just trying to make sure that we're doing right by the organization and just making all the right decisions schematically, personnel-wise, offense, defense, special teams. We've got a lot to look forward to over the next 7 games, and that's really the focus, is how can we find ways to win games to get in the playoffs.
What was the message to the team immediately after, and then when you came back here Monday?
Same thing as I always say, you got to put this one to bed, win, lose, or draw. A lot to learn off of the following day, which was Monday, and all our focus has to shift to Chicago.
How about 17 sacks past 3 games? That ties for the second best stretch in 3 games in franchise history.
They're playing really well. The D-line gets after it. Aaron Boycott, our defensive line coach, and Greg Scruggs, our assistant D-line coach, they do a phenomenal job. And those guys, we roll 10 deep, and they're so good at substitutions and getting on and off the field and coming out at them in waves and staying fresh. And I mean, it's an onslaught of just pure gas and energy and giving everything you've got. There's no plays off. You're not trying to pace yourself for third down. And what you're seeing is collectively as a group, they're just producing at a very high level.
I think there are 12 players in the National Football League who have 7 sacks. Quinnen Williams leads your team with 8. He is the only defensive tackle amongst that group who has 7 sacks in the National Football League. Why is he such a menace, and how has he taken his game to the next level?
When you watch the tape on Quinnen, you're not wowed by, like when you watch Aaron Donald, just the foot speed, the twitchiness, all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God. When you watch Quinnen, you look at him and it doesn't look like he's moving super fast, but what he has is unbelievable power. And while he's moving, like he is eating grass and constantly. You're not stopping him. You can double him, and he's still pushing the pocket at a rate as if no one's in front of him. You're just a road bum. And he's playing at a very high level. He's playing with absolute ferocity. He plays his absolute tail off, and his style of play is so powerful. It's just hard to stop him.
I don't want to compare the Bears to the 21 Jets, but it seems like they're a feisty group. Does that show on film, especially on the defensive side of the ball? A lot of young guys.
Yeah, they've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and Justin Fields does such a good job with his legs and moving the pocket and getting out of the pocket and working off schedule. He's kind of finding a niche, and they're really finding a good niche for him with regards to the QB run game, and he's definitely a problem. But overall, just the group's got a lot of confidence right now. I know they're, from a record standpoint, it may not be where they want to be, but I mean, they're so close to having that record flipped.
You always have a good perspective. You said 7 games remaining. Everybody on the outside that they face in the locker room every day is going to say, the sky's falling, you guys are 6-4, you were swept by the Patriots. What do you say to these guys about just the 7 games ahead of you? And I know your process focused, like one day, one rep, take care of what you have to, but just big picture, what's still in front of them?
The big picture is the opportunity to do something. But what that opportunity is, we'll never know unless we take care of the moment. That's the point, is you can look outside, but we don't have control over anything except this moment. And if you're worried about, and if you're on all the apps that predict the playoffs and you're clicking win, lose, and you're looking at the record and you're thinking about all the different scenarios that can come into place, and you spend 30 minutes thinking about scenarios, well, you just lost 30 minutes that you could be focusing on your moment and focusing on this team and focusing on you and how we can find ways to get better to win on Sunday. And so acknowledge the fact that we have an opportunity, but also recognize that if we don't take care of our moment, the opportunity will never come to fruition.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
After the break, we're back in the studio talking Jets football and breaking down the tape on the Bears. Don't go away. Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh is brought to you by MetLife, the official insurance company of the New York Jets.
Welcome back to Jets Game Day. Eric Allen joined by Bart Scott, the Mad Backer, and Brian Baldinger, the Mad Scientist. Hey, fellas, both the Bills and the Patriots played on Thanksgiving. It is a crowded AFC East. In terms of the Jets looking ahead with the Bills and the Vikings on deck, is this a must-win today against Chicago Bears? What says you, Bart?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a game that they should win, especially we don't know the status of Justin Fields, but this is a team that's rebuilding, that got rid of 2 of their best players on the defensive side of the ball. This is an opportunity to get right, to get a rhythm, and really try and get some momentum going forward. They're going to have to win 4 minimum to try and get into the tournament, and what better week to start than against a team that's below 500?
Baldy, listen, I know Thanksgiving was a couple days ago, but Michael Carter, the Jets running back, and James Robinson, they're still hungry. Are they going to get their opportunities to eat today?
Oh, yeah. No, I think you got to start in this game with establishing the run. Like, I just think back to that final drive against the Buffalo Bills when they took time off the clock, and it was just the tandem of Carter and Robinson, running a variety of different plays that played keep away from Josh Allen and the Bills. Like, it's on tape. They have done this. And this is not nearly as good a defense as Buffalo. So, to me, both these running backs in a tandem have got to eat in this game right here. I mean, it should be like a good Thanksgiving Day feast 3 days after Thanksgiving.
Earlier this week, Baldy was in the film room breaking down the Jets' rush offense's opportunity against a Bears rush defense that has struggled throughout the season.
This is Baldy's Breakdown.
Since the first week of the season, the Jets, one of their favorite plays is this outside zone. They do it a couple different ways. They'll pull the backside tight end, in this case Tyler Conklin, to double with the front side tight end right here on Oweh. And really, Michael Carter can cut it inside, or he can take it around the corner to use the speed, and he does that. It's probably their best play, one of their best plays that they have consistently run well all year. Now, the Bears have had a hard time stopping that play. Jack Sanborn, 57, he's in there for Roquan Smith, who they traded to the Baltimore Ravens a couple weeks ago, and they had a hard time against the Falcons last week on this play. Like, they got split, and they got hit, they didn't get off blocks, and the rookie, Tyler Algier here, ran for 26 yards on that outside zone. The Bears are susceptible to this play.
Coming up, Ethan and Caroline give us the morning tea, followed by final thoughts from the studio on today's matchup with the Bears.
All right, Ethan, hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Caroline.
All the tryptophan out of your system. You're ready to go today?
Yes.
Okay, let's get to it then. Chicago Bears coming to MetLife. There's a lot of familiar faces, though, for the Jets.
Yeah, a lot of former Jets on the Chicago Bears. Ryan Griffin, Trayvon Wesco, Cairo Santos, just to name some of them. But you know where I'm looking? In the trenches again, because the Chicago Bears offense has let up 40 sacks. That's tied for most in the NFL, and this Jets defensive line coming off a heater in Foxborough.
Yeah, coming off a big heater, 6 sacks against New England, but they also, over the last 3 games, have had 17 sacks on the quarterback, which is tied for first in the NFL, so they're really rolling. But I want to revisit that New England game really quickly. I know it didn't end the way everybody wanted it to. However, special teams had a really great game, just one mistake at the end of the game. Greg Zuerlein, 45-yard field goal, really, really windy conditions.
Yeah, you got to tip your cap to Greg Zuerlein, and really to Braden Mann, too, because he was a big reason why the Jets were able to flip the field for most of the game. 2 57-yard punts, 2 punts inside the 20. Mann was a big reason why the Jets were able to hold the Patriots off of the scoreboard for the majority of the game. And how about this? Talking about holding opponents off of the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Darrelle Revis being inducted in the Ring of Honor today. This is like my favorite stat maybe ever.
Okay.
2009, he faced 8 receivers who he held under 35 yards.
Okay.
Those receivers have a combined 43 Pro Bowl selections and 18 first-team All-Pro selections. That's the GOAT right there.
That is. I mean, that's light work for the
No one
island.
wants to vacation on Revis Island. Just putting that out.
No, you don't.
So this one's to you, Darrelle Revis, and that is the T.
Cheers.
This segment is brought to you by HCL Tech, supercharging progress.
Eric Allen here inside the studio. The Jets look to move to 7-4 on the season with the win over the Chicago Bears this afternoon at MetLife Stadium. Quarterback is always the talk of the town. This week, no different for the Jets. Bart, what did you think about Robert Saleh's decision to start Mike White this week?
I thought it was a solid move. You know that Flacco has not been dressing the last couple of weeks. Mike White has been practicing with the tools. He's been ready to go. And this gives an opportunity, to maybe breathe some life. Sometimes when you switch up the quarterback position, it also gives Zach Wilson an opportunity to kind of watch. Last year when he, take a seat because of injury, he came back and he played a lot better to close out the season. Mike White can be that spark. He's a guy who's going to get the ball out on time. He's a little bit more athletic at this point in his career than Joe Flacco. So if the play breaks down, he does have enough athleticism to make you pay by running the football as well. He's accurate, and the guys really, really like him, and it'll be a spark for the offense, I believe.
Bart, you mentioned it before. Do you think Wilson can learn, taking a step back now from everything that's transpired over the last 10 days or so?
I mean, it's the ups and downs of being a quarterback in the maturation process, right? Nobody's ready to be a great quarterback in year 2. You look at just the quarterbacks within his class. Lawrence has been up and down. Fields early on really struggled until they changed the offense and kind of sampled what the Baltimore Ravens did with Justin Fields. Trey Lance is, not being able to play. He's got injured. So it's right on par. Like, you don't expect the second-year quarterback to have all the answers. It's a process, and I think too often we've gotten spoiled by the early success of Mark Sanchez, the early success of Ben Roethlisberger, the early success of guys like Russell Wilson. But sometimes it takes a little bit more time. And I think it's unfair to a lot of these, young quarterbacks who are being, judged with a really, really high bar from the success of, some elite quarterbacks that came in and was ready to play immediately.
Baldy, this is an interesting spot for the Jets because they'll be starting their 3rd quarterback this week. Of course, Joe Flacco started the year with Zach Wilson out, and then when he came back from injury, he's the guy for a number of games, but now they turn the reins over to White.
Okay, so here's a couple things. One, you can't lie to your team. The team knows if a player's playing well, if he should be sat down. And let's face it, Zach Wilson was the 2nd pick of the draft. That doesn't ensure anything. Everybody should get, and usually does get, humbled in this business. It's a hard business at every position, especially when you're under the spotlight in New York at the quarterback position. Being humbled, it's a good learning lesson. So that's what Zach should do. He should learn from this, and he should be better because of it. But in the meantime, if Mike White goes out there and balls out and they win this game, then let Mike White keep going. Sometimes you just got to play the hot hand. If Mike gets hot, play the hot hand.
Big picture, the Jets have a great opportunity this afternoon to move to 7-4 on the year. They're about to face the Chicago Bears. You guys had the hot hands all day. That's Brian Baldiner, Bart Scott. Enjoy your football Sunday.